Welcome to the Explainer. So, picture this. You're standing out in the dusty Egyptian desert. You've just uncovered a hidden door to a completely forgotten world. But there are whispers going around about a terrifying curse that hunts down anyone who dares to disturb the pharaoh. I mean, it sounds exactly like a Hollywood blockbuster, right? But this is the very real, very famous mystery of King Tutankhamun's tomb and the legendary mummy's curse. Okay, let's just dive right into this. To truly wrap our heads around this real-life cold case, we have to jump back to exactly 1922. That was the year archaeologist Howard Carter literally struck gold, making the discovery of an absolute lifetime deep down in the Valley of the Kings. After years of what felt like endless searching, Carter finally uncovered a doorway that hadn't been opened for over 3,000 years. Actually, just pause and think about that for a second. 3 millennia of complete, undisturbed silence. Everything inside that space had been perfectly sealed away from the rest of the world since ancient times. And what was waiting inside that untouched, flawlessly preserved golden chamber? Well, it was a find that absolutely shocked the globe. We're talking massive golden treasures, exquisite royal artifacts, and right there at the center of the whole shebang, the mummy of the boy king himself. But as you might guess, it wasn't just gold waiting for them in the dark. Right at the entrance, there were these chilling warnings carved directly into the walls. One of them famously read, "Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the king." Talk about an incredibly dramatic warning. And as we're about to see, the consequences of ignoring that warning felt terrifyingly real to the people involved. Section 1. The body count. The curse begins. 22. That is the shocking number of deaths often cited as being directly tied to the opening of this tomb. From sudden weird illnesses to really chilling coincidences, these 22 deaths had the entire world wondering if that ancient warning on the wall had actually come to life. Now, the legend of the curse really truly took off with our first major victim, a guy named Lord Carnarvon. He was the man footing the bill. He funded the entire expedition. And shortly after the tomb was opened, he died under sudden and extremely mysterious circumstances. As you can imagine, this sent an absolute wave of panic straight through the archaeological community. But here's the thing. If you look at his medical records, the official cause of death wasn't some supernatural mummy attack. It was an infected mosquito bite. I know, a bit anticlimactic. But it wasn't the bite itself that terrified everybody. It was the incredibly bizarre coincidences that happened right after. Take the Cairo blackout, for example. It's said that at the exact moment Lord Carnarvon took his last breath, the lights in the entire city of Cairo just completely went out, plunging millions of people into total darkness. And to add one final, super eerie detail to this timeline, back home in England, Carnarvon's dog supposedly howled into the night before suddenly dropping dead as well. This crazy sequence of events just set off a massive global chain reaction of fear. Because over the next few years, several more people connected to the tomb started dying mysteriously too. Section 2. The investigation. Media sensation versus science. So let's put on our detective hats here. We really have 2 highly logical suspects hiding behind this legend. On the left side, we've got fierce newspaper battles and pure sensationalism. And on the right, biological hazards and misunderstood science. Let's start by looking at the media. You've got to remember, back in the 1920s, newspapers were fiercely battling for readers. They were the ones who coined the terrifying term, the mummy's curse. It was basically the 1920s equivalent of clickbait. Historians now strongly believe the press deliberately blew completely natural deaths way out of proportion just to feed the public's absolute obsession with the story. The press heavily pushed this specific narrative, the idea that ancient priests had laid down a supernatural protection, basically a magic trap, to punish anyone who dared to disturb the pharaoh's rest. And man, that legend grew so much stronger with every single death they managed to link back to the tomb. Section 3. The science of the curse. Biology misunderstood. When we strip away the headlines, the real threat was likely biological. Think about it. This tomb had been sealed tight for thousands of years. Inside, ancient bacteria, toxic molds, and fungi had just been sitting there dormant. So when explorers finally broke in and breathed in that incredibly stale air, they were exposing themselves to some serious but totally invisible health risks. And the real tragedy here, medicine in the 1920s was, well, completely out of its depth. The medical field back then simply wasn't equipped to identify, let alone handle, human exposure to these rare, dormant pathogens that had been locked away for millennia. So we kind of have to ask ourselves, was this all just mere coincidence and exaggeration? Well, a lot of modern scientists argue, absolutely, yes. It's a really strong argument that many of these deaths were purely coincidental, but then massively compounded by the media relentlessly exaggerating the demise of anyone even vaguely connected to the dig.
Plus, there is a massive, glaring hole in the whole supernatural theory, and his name is Howard Carter. The very man who actually broke the seal and opened the cursed door. Yeah, he survived for many, many years after the discovery. I mean, if the curse was real, wouldn't the guy who literally swung the door open be the primary target?
Section 4. An enduring mystery, the verdict. So, bringing it all together, here are our most logical suspects behind the infamous body count. We've got sensationalist journalism just fanning the flames of fear, the very real biological threat of ancient germs and toxic molds, and honestly, just a bit of terrible luck. This is the rational, scientific evidence stocked firmly against those supernatural claims. Yet, despite all the science and logic we've just gone through, does a part of you still wonder, was it really just fear and a medical mystery? Or did the pharaohs truly want to be left alone? Even today, the legend of Tutankhamun remains one of the most gripping mixes of history and mystery out there. Because sometimes the sheer power of the unknown just fascinates us in ways that logic can't ever entirely erase. Which brings us to the ultimate question I'll leave you with today. Myth or reality? What's your takeaway from all this evidence? If you loved unraveling this cold case with us, you've got to check out our explainer diving into the mystery of how the ancient pyramids were actually built. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.